Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session for Wednesday, October 28th, 2020. This topic is Boston Harbor Utility Advisory Committee. It's a 30-minute briefing. If you'd like to listen in or call in to listen, it's the phone number is 360-252-9020 and the PIN is 1234. I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board. The vice chair, Commissioner Ty Menzer, is here. Commissioner Gary Edwards is in the boardroom. County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Amy Davis, the clerk of the board, is here. And Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell is here as well, I see. So Ramiro, please.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners, and good morning to you all. I won't be able to introduce each one of you, so hopefully we can get the time to go around and introduce yourselves. As providing a background on this, commissioners, you received some briefings related to from Public Works on a consolidation study related to all the utilities within the county. And as you know, we have water and sewer utilities within the county, and Public Works suggested they're going through a study to see what the options of consolidation will be. It brings a little bit of more sustainable in managing all the utilities and the ratepayers associated with those utilities. One of the first steps the Public Works did is whether we have the legal ability to consolidate all the utilities, and that has already been answered, which yes, we do have the legal ability to consolidate all the utilities. So the next step in the process, and you heard from Public Works and their budget presentation, the next step will be for you to consider authorizing the cost service study, which gets a little more detail about this particular consolidation. As you also heard, no decisions have been made. At this point related to the consolidation, this is just exploring the options because there are several steps within the process before the board can consider any type of consolidation related to all the utilities that we manage here in the county. During this process, you receive a couple of emails from members of the Boston Harbor community, which have sewer and water utilities the county manages for the community, raising some concerns related to this particular study. We issue a response to some of the email letters. The result of that was they requested to have a time with the commissioners where they would like to provide their perspective to you. I have attached on your agenda some talking points they would like to address that before the board. And I'd just like to maybe set the stage for the members of the Boston Harbor community who are joining us today, that no decisions will be made by the board today. And this is just an accommodation of their request or your request to have an opportunity to provide your perspective to the board. So that's the framework of this particular conversation. And I'd like to who's going to take the lead from the Boston Harbor community. Commissioner Hutchins?
You mentioned you have some talking points you provide. I don't know if my seatmates have it, but I don't have talking points.
Is it not attached on your agenda at Boston Harbor Utility Advisory Committee? No?
No, sir.
Okay, I will ask Amy to give you a copy. I apologize for that.
No, that's okay. That's fine. Thank you.
I've got them.
Right here? Yeah, yeah.
And so who will be taking the lead, be the lead spokesperson then?
I will. My name is David Hartley. I am actually the newest member of the Boston Harbor Utility Advisory Committee, and I would like to make some opening remarks
Certainly.
On behalf of the committee, if I may. The committee has been operating for many, many years and has established a strong trust relationship with the community of Boston Harbor utility ratepayers, and also has striven to develop a trust relationship with the county and specifically with Public Works, and act as a conduit. in that capacity, we have shared information related to the consolidation issue with the broader community through email and social media. And these have included a copy of the initial feasibility study conducted by HDR, that report, the July 22 briefing of the commissioners by Public Works on the results of that report, the link to that YouTube video, and of course the letter that we sent to the commissioners outlining our concerns, and especially related to the lack of engagement with us as a committee on the consolidation issue. I want to let the commissioners know that the feedback that we are getting from the community is uniformly negative. They do not support, at this time, the consolidation initiative. They do not support going ahead with the phase 2 cost of service study using ratepayer funds. And there's very little support for that here. By the same token, the Utility Advisory Committee, and I think the community at large, certainly supports the idea of streamlining tasks associated with timekeeping, bookkeeping, and administration of the water and sewer utilities. But we do question whether consolidation is the only way to achieve that, and would ask that Public Works consider alternatives to consolidation. We're looking for a dialogue with Public Works, and we're requesting that we engage with Public Works to discuss what the quantifiable benefits to our ratepayers would be from pursuing consolidation before continuing down the path, which seems to be, on a track with little engagement from us. And we're specifically requesting that consolidation phase 2, or the, as Ramiro referred to, the cost of service study, $65,000, and a considerable staff time, I would imagine, that be excluded from the 2021 budget until such time as we can work with Public Works to determine, or to get an idea of what benefits this would be for our community before more time and resources are spent on it. And then, further, and very important as we would move forward with this, we're looking for engagement and some clear ground rules to be set between Public Works and the Utility Advisory Committee regarding the scoping and the review of any future consolidation study that may happen down the road. And we feel that we bring a lot of benefit to the county through our communication with the broader community, our continuing knowledge about the utility systems, and actually technical qualifications that members of the community have, which we'd be happy to share with the commissioners should they want to see some resumes. I think those are the basic things that we wanted to get across, and appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and maybe have some discussion in the rest of the time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that would like to make some comments? Okay.
I would my name is Edward Steinweg, and I'm actually the chair of the advisory committee. And I'd like to express a disappointment with the process that has gone forth, echoing some of the words of Dr. Hartley. There's certainly been a lack of consistent, cohesive voice in this process over the last couple of years. And as a little bit of history, when I joined the advisory committee 4 or 5 years ago and Teresa Parsons was the utilities manager, it was brought up that there were discussions about consolidation. And in fact, I have been informed that there have been discussions since about 2006 about this. But Teresa brought this up, and she said that a committee, a study group was being put together. This was 3 or 4 years ago, was being put together. And I was volunteered to be the member from Boston Harbor to actually be on that committee that investigated consolidation. Nothing came of that. During Teresa's tenure, we did hear on and off about the process going forward, or that this was still being considered, but there were never any meetings convened. And after she left the position, we heard virtually nothing about consolidation until the initial study came forward in the latter part of 2019. We certainly, as a committee, we certainly feel that any initiative that would help our ratepayers, our friends and neighbors have both better rates and better services is a great idea. That is, and that's what we consider in our purview to be our responsibility to help our friends. But many things could have been done differently, taking advantage of the expertise of the advisory committee members. As Dr. Hartley pointed out, there's members here there's a member who has been who was with the original Boston Harbor group that initiated the water and sewer system. We have a member who's an engineer who works on water systems throughout the state. We have another member who was a budget analyst for the city of New York and both a consultant and gave testimony to Congress and the World Bank about infrastructure funding. We have a PhD hydrologist. There's an incredible depth of knowledge within our group that could help both hone input to a consulting firm or serve the county in determining other avenues to achieve the same budgetary efficiencies. The idea of taking this immediately to a fairly expensive consulting firm seems peculiar in some ways when there is a depth of knowledge that could help the county. Similar to a process ongoing with our utility of having a consulting firm give options for putting in a backup generator for our system that would cost the households of our community about $1,000 each. When again, I think a very incredibly competent county employee, Kevin Patching, might be able to lend expertise to that and in a more efficient and much less expensive way, give us incredible services. So I appreciate the intent. The intent is what we are after. We just want to work with the county because we feel that we can help, and we certainly want to be able to help explain this and support our community in their understanding of this.
Thank you, sir. Well, you do have a broad breadth of expertise in the community. Dr. Hartley, what are you a doctor of, sir?
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'm a civil engineer,
Okay.
water resources engineer.
Thank you, sir. This is a very, it's a good dialogue. I'm really glad that we have this briefing today, this time together, so we can all three commissioners hear this at the same time. Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir, Gary.
Have the $65,000 cost, who is going to incur that cost that was mentioned?
I believe that is going to be distributed among all the different utilities in the county. It's not just a single utility who's going to bear the cost of that.
And I'm curious, this has been going on for, I don't know, 20 years. And what is the study referred to that must have been completed in 2019?
So the $65,000 you heard today, that is a proposal as part of the 2020-2021 budget by Public Works. So that decision has not been made, obviously, because the board has not taken any actions related to the upcoming budget. Related to the feasibility study, it was made a reference to that was also approved in 2019 by the board to go ahead and do that. And the feasibility study was really whether there is the legal ability by the county to consolidate the utilities across the county. And that answer was affirmative, and that is the reason why Public Works continued with the phase 2, which is the next step in the process of detailing the consolidation in terms of the cost and the cost-benefit analysis.
And I guess this is what we're talking about here. The Utility Advisory Committee is basically a volunteer organization. It's not a legally created district as similar to, say, the Lawrence Lake Management District or Long Lake. Is that right? Or we've not reached that point yet?
They serve as an advisory committee for the water and sewer utilities in Boston Harbor. But as you know, the county manages all the water and sewer utilities, including the Grand Mount, Beverly Beach, and the rest. So it's more than just the Boston Harbor, the study that will encompass.
Would there be a creation of a utility district? Are we talking about that, or is that something that could potentially solve this problem? I'm just this is relatively new to me. I've heard a little bit about it, but
well, and I think
questions.
that if I may, the questions that you're asking could be answered on the study that is proposed by Public Works.
But it isn't done yet.
No, it's not, and it's
Okay.
for your consideration, and that is the time, very timely for the members of the Boston Harbor community to bring their perspective to you before you start making budgetary decisions. And so that is the reason why I scheduled this meeting at this time, since you will be reviewing all the requests related to the budget, making decisions for the upcoming budget starting next week.
Are there provisions in law to create a utility district similar to a lake management district?
I believe the legality of consolidating all your utilities has been answered on the phase 1 study, which is yes.
And so this study would come up with the benefits of a consolidation or advantages, disadvantages. Right. Okay, and this is your voluntary committee?
Yeah, I believe it's voluntary, yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
Are you elected by each other, or are you elected, do you have a board and such, or you just volunteer and you come together?
We are a committee that arose out of a 1994 operating agreement between the county and Boston Harbor community that set forth the provisions for a utility advisory board, and we are elected by community members and serve 2-year terms. So our purview was directly to be able to answer to the county commissioners at regularly scheduled meetings according to that operating agreement of 1994.
Okay. Romero, are there other UACs, utility advisory committees around the county? that operate similarly?
We have on some of the utilities, I believe we have a Beverly Beach and a couple others not as active as the Boston Harbor. But yeah, we do have some advisory committees.
Well, yeah,
And
I'm
I
going to
think
say
that
Boston Harbor is active.
I think the difference is on the advisory committee, and I think Commissioner Edwards was asking the question. The committee was not formed legislatively by the board, so that's the big difference between legislative action creating a committee versus a memorandum of understanding in which that committee was formed, as I recall.
And we'll get to the other question in just a moment. But that was what I was hearing is, and I don't want to presume that there's a lack of, or you're asking for collaboration between Public Works and Boston Harbor. There has been or hasn't been, and you're wanting it? Okay. You get one chin shake. Okay. Go ahead.
If I may,
yes,
commissioners. Yeah, my name's Dave Monti. I've been on the advisory committee since 2014, and was replaced by Dr. Hartley in September of this year. I also happen to be a retired attorney. So let me, just a couple of points of clarification. First of all, the Boston Harbor UAC was actually established by board action. There was a resolution that was adopted. So I just want to make sure that the commissioners understand it wasn't simply an agreement. There was a resolution adopted by the board authorizing the county to enter into those agreements with the different utilities for the purpose of providing advice and assistance and also communicating directly with the community. So the committee has been a longstanding committee, and to answer your question, Commissioner Hutchings, we have had a good working relationship with the county and its staff for a long time, at least since I've been on the UAC. In this particular instance, and as Ed Steinweg mentioned, over the past few years, there have been a lot of staff changes. There's been a loss of continuity and a real lack of communication with the UAC and with the Boston Harbor community over what the county is considering doing. You know, as Ed pointed out, he was supposed to be the representative to a work group from all the utilities to discuss consolidation. And as far as we know, that work group never met. We were told about this study being done, and we kept asking, can we see a draft? We were told as soon as there's one ready to be looked at, we'll provide it to you. That never happened. And, you know, the feasibility study that was completed by HDR, in our opinion, is incomplete. There are some misstatements. There are some omissions. And as we pointed out in our letter, it actually says they don't know of any capital projects that are needed by any of the utilities when we already have $1.8 million worth of capital projects that the county's own information has described to the Boston Harbor community. So, you know, what we think we can be helpful. We hope that we can in the discussion about what the county's objectives are and different ways of getting there. This upcoming study, we don't even know what it's about. It's called the cost of service study. We have no idea what the scope is, what the content of it is supposed to be. It hasn't been explained to us. It may very well be a good thing to do, but we'd like to have a discussion about it before moving forward. So I think, and we appreciate, by the way, very much the commissioners willing to have this discussion with us, particularly at a very busy time of year for you. We understand you have a lot on your plate right now, so even a half hour is very important. And we thank you very much for making this time available to us.
Well, you're welcome for that, and that's good background information. And we've opened up the door, but it's going to shut here in about 3.5 minutes. Ty, you haven't spoken. Do you have anything to say, sir, or any questions?
No, I appreciate the input. I mean, just my understanding of where we're at is that the county has acquired a patchwork of miscellaneous utility systems for various historical reasons. Yours is probably the most well-organized and well-established, but we have other ones that aren't in that situation. My understanding is the smallest ones are not in a financially sustainable position. and it's our responsibility to figure out how to solve that. And so we have to look at every possible solution to that. And if you guys have input on that, happy to hear it. It may be that it's not about your utility. It might be about Beverly Beach or Tamishan or somewhere else. I don't know the ins and outs of each exact one, but I do have the general understanding that we have pieces that we've acquired that just can't be sustainable in the way that they're being managed now. So we're just trying to look, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to know what my motivation is, it's just to try to look holistically and see how we can be responsible about making sure all these miscellaneous systems that we've acquired can be operational and serve the citizens. Nothing more than that from my perspective.
Hey, Hutch, I do have a follow-up, please.
If you got a quick one, Gary, because we got to shut it with the other meeting.
Dave mentioned a resolution so I haven't seen that, but I would certainly like to see it. And I didn't get the HDR. What was the reference to HDR?
That is the engineering firm who conducted the study.
Oh,
That's the name of the engineering
okay.
firm.
But have you folks got a resolution there that from the old days?
So maybe we can get a copy of the resolution to the commissioner. It's just a matter of clarification on my comment related to legislative action. The board, through a legislative action, does not appoint members to this committee. And that is the legislative action that I'm speaking to. So, and that is a fundamental difference because the commissioners have many committees that you appoint, where you receive applications, where you review applications, and you take a legislative actions to appoint individuals, members of the citizen members to appoint those committees. In this case, that's not the case. It's formed and elected by the members of the Boston community. So I just want to make sure what the clarification is between my legislative action comment on the committees.
So thank everybody for attending. Romero, do you want to wrap this up?
I believe this is a great piece of information for you commissioners. And again, as you will move into your budget deliberations next week, that will give you a more broad understanding of the issues before you can authorize or not the study for $65,000 the Public Works has suggested for you to consider.
Thank you. And I think the Boston Harbor community is an awesome community. You folks rock. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. And we'll be back in contact. I'm sure we'll be talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.